Hello, welcome back to week 10 of the Hearthstone Global Games, where Hungary just got the final win that they needed in the ace match to get themselves through to stage 2 of the competition. Once again, I'm Falcone, joined by Lorinda, and next up, Denmark versus France, where Denmark need to get this 3-0 win if they
really
want
do.
any hope of getting through.
But on top of that, I mean, they need the 3-0 win to have any chance of getting through, but realistically, this is going to be two of the teams that going into HGG were two of the best teams. Let's see what's happened to them now when we look at this group. As you can see, they're both having a bit of a tough time.
Yep, France not looking good at all. They are out of this tournament like Slovakia was in the last game, regardless of the result of this series. However, if Denmark win 3-0, and then in the following series, Kazakhstan beat Canada 3-0, then Denmark qualify as third.
Good luck, Denmark.
But they need to push Canada out of the way. That's the only way they're going to get through. So it's a long shot, but it is possible. And we've seen crazy things happen this week.
Yeah, and Canada were, after 3 games, in the same position as Russia. Everybody's saying they go through for sure. Well, stupid things had to happen for Russia not to go through. Stupid things have to happen for Canada not to go up. We've seen it is possible.
This is even more stupid, though, right? Like, 2 3-0s have to... The next 2 series have to each contain a 3-0 going a specific way.
The series.
I done it!
He told me to pull him up on it if he said it.
The next 2 series. I gotta get that word right. Gotta get that word right.
But yeah, let's have a look at who we've got playing, because this is 2 powerful teams. Hoi now finally won a big event. We've been saying for years he's going to sometime soon.
Our European Spring Champion.
Crane, we've been saying he's going to win a big event sometime soon. Won Trinity Series. Indorin should win big things. He's already won minor things before. And Freddie B, also a player not to be sneezed at.
Versus Disdemon, Talk, Uned, and Best Marmot. Again, France, a very well-known team in Hearthstone, one of these real community-based teams. Although these guys are big YouTubers, these guys are entertainers, probably a little bit more than they are pro players.
Well, Disdemon's worst finish in 2016 preliminaries was top 16.
Wow.
He finished top 4, top 16, top 12.
You know,
disgusting.
I mean, he is the anchor of the team, though. Every team's got an anchor, the HCT guy. I think the other guys are a little bit more on the entertaining side.
Sure.
But I mean, they play competitively as well.
Yeah.
All of these guys do. These guys play for teams. They do their thing. This entertains me every time, and I've not said it yet. But for some reason, in my notes for Crane, it just says mildly salty. Like, that's it.
That entertains me immensely, because mildly salty is exactly how I would imagine you saying somebody was the saltiest man on the planet.
I've just got bullet points for Crane, and I've got one bullet point that just says mildly salty.
Denmark, the second most peaceful nation in the world, done out of first place entirely because Crane lives there. Alright, let's get on with some Hearthstone. Freddie B taking it on Uned in the first game of the day. Some pretty powerful classes there for Denmark available, whereas France, pairing the Priest with the Rogue, going to get one of those mediocres out of the way.
Yeah, don't forget one more time, this is the specific Hearthstone Global Games format. The classes have been distributed between the players. One player has 3, that's the ace player. They're going to be playing a second time if we get to game number 5. The classes, how they are distributed, and the play order are predetermined. The teams have decided that in advance. And now it's a blind pick. So Freddie B going to be shown his opponent's class, Uned going to be shown his opponent's classes, and they now need to decide which one class out of the 2 they're going to be bringing. And that's how it develops through the entire series.
And then when you get to the end, you add in the Warlock. You add in your 9th class, or the class you haven't picked yet, but it's often a Warlock. Especially when a team needs to win 3-0, that does actually add in a lot more strategy. You just don't care about the other classes. You just want to win that 3-0, and then you throw it back in, so you've got 2 to choose from. If it does go to this 5th match, and again, even if it isn't 3-0, both these teams are points to prove, because going into this wanted to be regarded as the better teams.
Yeah, Denmark, a team specifically that I'm not at all surprised to see Warlock in the ace match. Funnily enough, with this series, if we get to Hoi's game, if Hoi gets to play, they've already lost, or they've already lost out on their chance to get through to the next round of the Hearthstone Global Games, because he's the 4th player, and that means they wouldn't have won 3-0. It's going to be Warrior versus Rogue coming up first here.
All right, so let's see what has been picked here. If it's the Pirates, we know how that goes down. The Pirates hits you in the face and you die from it. If it's not the Pirates, then it's going to be very interesting. Let's go see if that happens or not first.
Uned and Freddie B there, both looking ready to go. Not joined by their teammates this time around. I have to admit, I always do prefer to see the teams gather together. It's great with Hungary. It was great with some of the teams we've had yesterday. But still, you know, Uned, very nice green background.
Green screen background.
Green background, why not?
So Freddie B, I'm just going to ignore that. I know what that's aiming at. I'll go for that later. Freddie B is a very powerful player. Gets a little bit lost in the fact that people he's with are so strong. But he's also represented Denmark in cycling, apparently. So not only is he very healthy, he's very good at Hearthstone, which are two things not necessarily associated with each other all the time, but in his case it is true. And we are going to get Pirates versus the Rogue. It is going to be the Cavern Rogue, and this doesn't usually work out too well for the Rogue.
Well, that's exactly what Denmark need. They need the 3-0 badly. Freddie B actually started playing the game when it came out on iPad, apparently. Some of his friends introduced him to it in 2014, and he decided to download the app, and that's where he got started.
What if he was playing it while cycling?
Maybe.
That'd have been pretty dangerous.
Maybe. Yeah. He does look like a cyclist, even.
Only because you know.
I don't know what that means, really, looking like a cyclist.
It means you're thin, athletic, healthy, and crazy.
Uned plays for Gamers Origin. He's got a huge YouTube following. Don't have the number here, unfortunately. He used to play high-level player versus player in World of Warcraft, like Arena, that kind of thing. Not the same as Arena in Hearthstone, different thing. And he's part of the Hearthstone FR stream team.
Yeah, top 4 DreamHack Winter recently. Well, recently, 6 months ago now. So, not just a pretty face.
He is a pretty face, though.
He does indeed. He has a pretty green screen to go with it. But also has some top results to his name.
Right. Gonna have to just start off by coining out the dagger. Gonna forget about the quest for now, as he is not got a good hand for completing that thing.
Yeah, completing with patches is not where you want to be at, and you can't even do it anyway. Gonna have to give it a turn or two. Note that he's not playing the quest on turn 1. This is the important thing.
He had to coin out the dagger instead. He just had to start removing this board. I think the dream draw for Uned in this position is actually Glacial Shard. If he can start freezing the warrior's face turn after turn when we get into the later part of the game, he is going to have a chance to prevent a lot of damage. Or postpone a lot of damage. Stall, at least.
And yeah, Freddie B happy to develop the weapon Bloodcell Corsair, not a card that's currently being run in most rogue builds. Okay, Firefly is picked up, so Uned actually has something to work with, but it's not a great deal to work with. Quite a few options for him here. He can just play the Firefly and give up on completing with Fireflies and try to complete with Elementals if he wants, just to challenge the board and get the Cavern down.
I think that's the way to go. I think he just has to start contesting the board. I like just the idea of dropping Firefly and dropping the Elemental as well. You put 2 1/2s on the board. The current board deals with it really inefficiently. He's going to disagree slightly. He's actually going to put the quest down and put the Firefly onto the board as well. It is difficult for Freddie B to actually deal with this. In fact, almost... Oh no, he's got the War Axe, sorry. For some reason I thought it was a rusty...
Well, he can deal with that, but then he's got to deal with the Flame Elemental that comes from it and such like. And he doesn't actually have much else going on for him here. Freddie, a pretty horrible looking situation given how Pirates works. He still should be fine.
Erupting the volcano, not going to make much of a difference to the game. As, wow, Freddie's just going to go for it. Look at that.
Yep. Got a lot of damage in hand. Let's use that damage. And suddenly France down to 17. And Denmark playing to the top of their deck to some degree. There's a lot of cards. Do a lot of damage from your deck in Pirates. You know, Cork on Elite. Just wrap this up next turn.
Yeah, this game not going to go on for much longer at all. I'm trying to work out what Uned's options are. He can play Preparation. Oh no, Preparation doesn't do anything.
Recommend drawing Glacial Shard.
Yeah, Exactly.
What I recommend here immediately.
If he plays the Youthful Brewmaster to bounce back the Firefly and then plays it again, the Firefly just gets destroyed next turn anyway. Well, no, it probably doesn't. Freddie B probably doesn't care about destroying any minions at this point. He just wants to smack everything he can into the face.
Well, at least the Brewmaster would at least challenge this 3-3 and get rid of it next turn. So I feel that Brewmaster is some way to go. And then you can play the Firefly back down and go second part of the quest at least.
Maybe even the Flame Elemental. Because if you put the Firefly down and it gets destroyed, then you kind of reset your quest counter. Sort of. You will then have 2 Flame Elementals in hand, so I don't think it makes a huge difference. But
yeah, and he's just going to do it straight on Flame Elementals.
Sure. Okay, that's another way of doing it.
Now, this is a slightly quicker way of going about it. This is the way you do when you are panicking and don't care about the card advantage that comes from doing the Firefly. You just want to complete that quest.
Spellbreaker actually not going to do anything now. There's no taunts in Uned's hand at the moment. That's not to say there won't be a Balfin later, but in the meantime, it's a bit of a dead draw, and Freddie going to have to work out how much of this he wants to push to the face. He's got the potential of 10 damage this turn, Arcanite Reaper next turn. It's not quite a 2-turn lethal.
Also needs to decide if he wants to just play the Spellbreaker, even though he'll have to waste the ability just to develop another 4-3. If he does that, I think we'll see the War Axe tank into the Brewmaster and defend his 4-3 and 3-3 board.
Oh, yeah. That still doesn't set up a 2-turn lethal, though, does it?
Let's see, that'd be 14. And then next turn he would have 12 available. So no, if it all goes face, it wouldn't either because the Brewmaster would trade in. So given that neither do, if he does go with a Spellbreaker play, we will see him probably kill off the Brewmaster. If we see him go with something else, then who knows?
Well, if he just goes... Okay. I was wondering if he went face with everything, the Spellbreaker would live, and maybe that would make bring him a little bit closer, but... Oh, no, of course it wouldn't, because the Heroic Strike wouldn't be able to be played. Okay. Then this makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so Uni's going to be able to complete,
Huh.
but it's just not going to do anything because he's got no way of stopping the onslaught. He does have Prep Vanish.
Yeah, that's no good against Arcanite Reaper, though. That's the problem.
Not great against Arcanite Reaper, but he doesn't know what's in hand because of the way that Freddie B's turns have gone. Really, France don't have much of a read, except they can possibly work out there's no 4-drop or Frothing Berserker because that Spellbreaker being played was a little bit unusual.
It's actually quite frustrating now for Uned that he didn't bounce the Firefly earlier, that he bounced the Flame Elemental, because if he'd bounced the Firefly and this was the second one he'd played, then he'd be able to prep out the Vanish, replay it, Shadow Step it, replay it, and complete the quest with that this turn. But I don't believe that's possible this turn now.
Let's see.
He can complete, but it would mean not playing Vanish.
But not actually do anything with it. Let's see what he does. He's going to have to do whatever it is quickly. He's left himself very little time.
That's the whole turn. It's just prep Vanish.
Yeah.
You
and
can
now
easily
Arcanite Reaper.
You can easily complete the quest over the next couple of turns now. I think even next turn, but you can't do anything to stop that Arcanite Reaper. 5 damage now, 9 damage next turn. Denmark now have the 2-turn lethal.
And France need to pick up Glacial Shard or Voodoo Doctor. Does Balfin Titan do it?
No, I don't believe it does because the minion's on the board as well. Also, Spellbreaker's there.
It's going to have to do a lot.
Spellbreaker plus Heroic Strike would still be lethal through the Balfin Tidehunter. This game's over. Freddie B is going to take game number 1.
So they can play it twice.
It's still not good enough, though.
I don't think it's going to help.
The minion trades, gets rid of one, Spellbreaker silences the other, weapon plus Heroic Strike still beats Uned.
I want to say they can play it 3 times, but they can't. Can they play it twice and remove the 3/3? They cannot.
Nope.
But of course, they don't know about the Heroic Strike number 2. So this is the play they're going to go with, I guess.
It's definitely a cute attempt. It's the best shot he's got, and if there wasn't a Heroic Strike, and if there wasn't a Silence, then actually it would be fine.
He knows about the Silence, though.
Oh, is he not going to Shadow Step the...
Yeah, he's just going to hope that he's not dead to the Heroic Strike, 'cause he can only see from where he sat. He can only see 8 damage.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so next turn he could Crystal Core, Patches, Shadow Step, win, and actually go through for lethal.
Nice spot. Very nice attempt there by Uned, but not going to take it away as Denmark take the first of the 3 wins that they're going to need to get in a row. Freddie B, he's done his job. Quick nod, but he knows it's not over yet.
Yeah, they've got a chance now, though. Obviously, significantly, like you lower it by 50% each time you win. You've got to go 1 in 8, 1 in 4, 1 in 2. And when you go from that 1 in 8 to that 1 in 4, suddenly things start feeling like you can do them. Obviously, the downside is France know that this will be a top-loaded lineup. They know that Denmark needs 3-0, so they will have counter decks lined up in their second and third slots, you would imagine.
I really liked the cool thumbs up there from Freddie B. He's cool, he's calm, he's collected, he's done his job. Now we move on. Crane on the Mage versus Talk on the Warrior. Again, worth mentioning, you say that France are going to have all the counter decks lined up, but France are out regardless.
Sure.
Is there a chance that maybe France won't be as well prepared because of that?
There is a chance, definitely they won't be as well prepared because of that. That's definitely a thing that could happen, but I feel that France are a very proud nation when it comes to Hearthstone. There's a lot of good French players and they're pretty closely near. I think that I would trust France to put in a lot of prep for this one, even though they're out of the tournament.
Yep, as we were saying earlier, they're a very community-heavy team. They care about the people watching. They care about their followings. These guys have huge Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, whatever. They have huge followings.
They have a Twitch channel that never ends.
Yeah, right, the Hearthstone
F1
on channel.
All the time. Like when they used to do a list of the top 10 Hearthstone channels, whoever was second was the guy who streamed a lot, because the French channel always had 1 million hours, or however many hours there are in a month. I think there's 1 million hours in a month.
So if you speak French, probably worth checking them out. But now it's going to be Crane versus Talk. Crane, again, checking my notes, mildly salty. Going to be mildly salty, I think, if he loses this one.
Yeah, he'll be mildly salty if he loses this game. That's for sure. I still find that description, not just because it's so mild, but because that's exactly how I'd expect you to write it with your very unabrasive personality. It's the combination of the two things that is making me fairly amused right now.
Glad it's entertaining you so much. I'm sure I copied it from somewhere, by the way. I'm sure I don't think I wrote that down in my own words. I think I copied that from a website somewhere. I think I read it.
Nicepeople.com.
I think I read it, found the description amusing, and so just wrote it down. It may have come from me. I don't know. My memory's not that good, so.
Outside of Trinity series, I mean, Crane, we've interviewed Crane once or twice already, at least once in this series, and he said that the Trinity series stuff really helped. Learning the communication, it did give Denmark a bit of a head start, that Crane had so much experience in that, whereas some of these other teams have had to learn. You know, 4 people talking on headsets at the same time is not necessarily the best way to get the most information conveyed.
Aside from Trinity, he's not had a huge break yet. I think he came second DreamHack Valencia 2016, losing to Evangelion. Is that year?
Yeah, that was that year.
And yeah, otherwise, he hasn't had his big break yet. He's one of these guys that everyone's heard of. He's got a hugely successful stream. He's a very well-respected player, and everyone should have heard of him. He just needs to get that big win behind his name now. And
he's running out of other people to contend for that title. Hoy, Muzzy, these guys, they're all getting it done now.
Right.
Zalay winning Star Ladder, another name that we've been saying, this guy will win something. Everyone's like, what do casters know? Casters know a bit. Those 3 guys have all won. But Crane is the one outside of Trinity Series who is the guy we're going to have to pin all of our, let's hope he loses so we've got something to say on. Crane, definitely one of the best players in the world, and he definitely will win something big.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and there is a chance still. It is a slim one, but there is a chance that the Hearthstone Global Games is, well, still a big chance for him.
Yep.
I've just said the word chance a lot in that sentence. It's all down to the next 2 series.
Good man.
Thank you. He needs to win this game. He needs his next player, Indra, and he needs him to win that game. And then he needs Kazakhstan to win all of their games. Kazakhstan being the only team in the Hearthstone Global Games to have not won a single series yet.
If anyone can, Neyman can. That's what I say.
If anyone can, Neyman can. What, come back and win this series 3-0 for Denmark's sake?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay.
Opening hands, it's Pirates. It's
Again?
Majors with Volcanic Potion in opening hand. I've been told you don't keep Volcanic Potion in your opening hand, even if you suspect it's Pirates, and you don't.
Who told you that? Crane?
Probably you, I think, actually, but Crane's just told me as well.
Yeah, Crane getting an Ice Block, going to be handy, buying them 1 extra turn. Thalnos and Flame Strike, though, not going to do much at all for the first, for the first load of turns.
Yeah, not looking that great here for the Mage at the moment. The painting on Crane's wall, by the way, when you see it close up, all of the people in it are going one way, except for the sort of orange splodge you can see at the top right. He's going the other way. It's a really good painting.
Okay.
Showing Crane's individuality and his nature.
Nice that you guys have such an artistic eye.
Yeah, that's what they call me. The connoisseur of absolutely nothing. Right, Pirates off to one of these strange opening hands where, I call it strange, it's a really good opening hand, but the ordering can be problematic to get the exact most out of it. But just double frothing is always nice with the coin.
Double frothing is great. Coin out frothing on 2, play frothing on turn 3. You can worry about Fiery War Axe and upgrading the weapons later, but early frothing Berserkers, 4 health, it's very hard for a mage to deal with on turn 2 or 3.
At least they have the secret, so they've got to decide whether they want to get the ice block down to invest in the double valet turn. But the double valet turn isn't actually that great, so it'll be valet ping into the frothing, and it's going to be really awkward when the second frothing comes down. As
Talk says in the intro video that we watch twice a week, every week, well, he says, is winning all that matters? No, it's not. And that's why he's here in full force, going to try and take down Denmark and keep playing the game despite the fact they're out. He actually plays for Armour Team, and he shares a huge YouTube channel with Best Marmot, another one of the French players.
How does sharing a YouTube just put double content on?
I guess, yeah. They just both upload videos there and split the profits.
And you don't think the attitude of is winning all that matters the reason they're 1 and 3?
I wouldn't have thought so.
Just throwing that out there.
I would like to see people with that attitude going 5-0 in the group, but obviously that's not happened.
In that case, UK would be 5-0. Anyway, moving swiftly on, Crane's going to be able to take down one of these frothing Berserkers. This turn, he's going to be able to take down one next turn. And in the meantime, he's got to hope that nothing bad happens to him.
It's going to be tricky, though, because France are just going to go ahead and Fiery War Axe plus Dread Corsair plus Firefly is an option next turn, and then upgrade the weapon after that.
Second time we've seen a Firefly this, I could call it weekend then, like I normally do, but over this week's Hearthstone Global Games.
I think we were wrong yesterday to predict that was Dwayne as Warrior. It's just some players have started putting Fireflies into Pirate Warrior to fit the curve more nicely.
I mean, Zerez was the first person to put it into Hunter ahead of Jord McCaw at one stage, or that later went back in.
Yep.
Basically because you fix your curve twice.
Yep.
And curve is all that matters. So it's surprising to me that it's taken this long to actually end up in Pirate Warrior, where, okay, the Pirate synergy is a huge part of the deck, but actually just fixing that curve, because the 1 or 2 times Pirate Warrior stutters, it is awful.
Yeah, yeah. France's start here, though, certainly not stuttering. This is brutal. Crane, next turn, going to have to deal with Frothing Berserker. But the thing is, Talk is going to develop another Pirate, the War Axe, I think, and the Firefly this turn. Crane can only deal with the Frothing Berserker, which means then the weapon's going to get upgraded because of the Pirate synergy. It's just completely out of control. It's going to take a miracle for Crane to take this back, I think.
So let's have a look how that occurs. First of all, your Gluttonous Ooze buys you some sort of turn at some point. You gain a bit of armor, you take some damage off the board. At another point, turn 7, Flame Strike will buy you a turn. You have Ice Block up. There is another option where Dad has just dropped a pen through a portal in the space-time continuum. We'll never see that again. Turn at 9, when you can Alex Straza your own face. If your Flame Strike turn, has cleared enough stuff up, and somehow your block has kept you alive on turn 8, your Alex Straza can, and there it is coming to hand, can get you back into it. Not only does it get you into it, but it occupies the board so well that the Pirates run out of steam. There's a lot of ifs there, but there are some key turns to look out for going forward.
So with Alex, there is a chance. I still think this turn has got to be the Medivh Valley ping. You can't let Frothing Berserker live any longer. The Gluttonous Ooze is going to have to try and hit an Arcanite Reaper a little bit later, I think.
Yes. Yeah, that's how they've got to manage these resources. They've got to try and basically get the block procced on 8 by a charge minion, Alex Straza on 9, and then they should be able to stabilise because the Ooze will have taken down a weapon on turn, likely on 6, possibly on 8.
Crane giving it some good thought, though, obviously having a chat with his team, although I didn't see Crane's lips moving there. It sounded like his team were were doing a lot of talking and he was listening, but eventually decided that's the play to make. And
so they're finally running out of steam, but not enough. It does, for all the reasons I just gave where Crane might hang on in there, there are a lot of reasons why all of that is still a long way off.
Fiery Warx now going to turn into a Death's Bite, well, without the Whirlwind effect, as the Blood Cell Cultist comes down. Torque can make short work of the Medivh's Valet, continue to control the board. That Flame Strike turn cannot come quickly enough for Crane.
Yeah, if this was a Blizzard, not a Flame Strike, you'd think there's maybe just a chance of hanging on in there. But it's just going to be so slow. And they're going to take a beating for 2 more turns. Can they just possibly keep this block alive? It's so important if they can.
Okay, Torque going wide here. I expect we won't see Nazos first mate come down and destroy the weapon.
Right.
That would be a little bit of a misplay.
Yeah, that's a bonus for Denmark at this point, that can't happen. And now the weapon's going to, the Uzi is going to do its thing almost certainly this time. It's going to prevent 4 damage and gain 4 armor. That's an 8 swing.
Yeah, I think he'd like to hold it for an Arcanite Reaper, but he just can't afford to here, you're right.
Mana Worm's a decent minion to occupy the board with as well, going into that Flame Strike.
And he can still ping as well, or drop Thanos, I guess.
Yeah, you might drop the Thanos just to try and get another card of use, like a second Ice Block, for instance, or an Ice Barrier would maybe buy you that time. If you can clear this board up, which you can on 7, and still be alive going into Alexstrasza on 9, you can definitely still win this game.
Yeah, definitely not out of the running just yet. Still feels like such a long way to go. That Ice Block going to help out a lot. Buying that 1 extra turn could be the difference between winning and losing. Torque kind of just has the tools he needs. I'm not sure what he can draw to speed this up. Maybe an extra upgrade, an extra Arcanite Reaper. Well, not an extra upgrade, his weapon's about to get destroyed, but an Arcanite Reaper would allow him to keep sustaining some damage. An extra Mortal Strike maybe, but I think it all comes down to Crane at this point.
Crane's got to try and get a read, and he's got the best players in the world around him on what that heroic strike is. If he reads it as an Arcanite Reaper, he may have held on to the Ooze, but he doesn't. He realised that it doesn't really matter. Does drop the Thanos for extra card insurance and also extra board presence. After you've cleared the board, your only removal while you're waiting to get to Alexstrasza is the stuff you have on the table.
Right.
So as much stuff on table as possible is useful. And it looks like they're going to get into the Flame Strike turn safe and sound.
Yeah. Let's see. 9 damage on the board, 4 in hand, well, 5 with the Nazos first mate as well, 14 total. That's not going to do it. That armor is actually what's preventing France from popping the block here.
So what France need to do is they realise that Flame Strike turn is coming up. They also realise that they cannot let this board presence live for the same reasons we've just described. So they need to represent 2-turn proc, as well as deal with some of these dangerous minions, and that is not necessarily as easy as it sounds.
All right. Torque out of time. Time to go. Can I actually just play the Nazos first mate and upgrade the weapon? This whole board going to die to Flame Strike next turn. Torque using up all of his resources to do this, and even enticing the trades, saving him a lot more damage. This turn was hugely beneficial for Crane, I think.
Yeah, he gets the second Ice Block off the top here as well, so he is going to be able to start to navigate himself into that position we were talking about. He would dearly love, his intellect for next turn is actually fantastic, because he doesn't mind going down to 1. He's not in a hurry to drop this Alexstrasza. He's in a hurry to get in a position to win after dropping the Alexstrasza.
And as it happens, Torque only has 8 damage total this turn if he wants to use it all. He's got the weapon, which will be 2 damage every single turn. But, I don't know, Torque put all of his minions on the board. Crane calmly destroyed them. Picks up an Archaeologist that should grab an Ice Barrier as well. That's even more health. Oh, Counterspell. Okay, sure.
Which is fine.
It stops the Heroic Strike.
Fine as well.
It's still more health.
Yeah, and Denmark are in a fantastic spot. They have managed to hang on through those key turns. We probably won't even see the Alexstrasza on 9 because this is another 11 health they can use to their own advantage.
Yeah.
What we'll see them do is Firelands Portal whatever is played and make sure the board just gets bigger. They'll try not to put Torque down below 12 any time so that they don't take 6 from a potential Mortal Strike. And even though there's a counterspell, they still will try and play around those key numbers. And really, Denmark have just seized control of this game.
Despite the insane start by Talk. I don't see a way that he sneaks the win here, unless there is a Mystery Eater of Secrets, which I don't want to count out just yet.
We've seen plenty of Eaters of Secrets eating secrets around the whole of the world in the global games.
First game yesterday, right? The first game, both teams had Eater of Secrets.
Yeah, and they both had it in their hand at the end as well, which is a really strange game of Hearthstone.
It's not Ice Barrier, so Talk. I'd say he has a pretty good idea now that this is a counterspell. I can't think of anything else it would be.
Right, Crane's going to have a free license to just clear this board up this turn. And
I think, yeah, your play still stands. Just Firelands Portal the...
yeah, trade into the 2-1.
Oh, you could get Bomb Squad, but I don't think that's even the end of the world.
Okay, so you think about the Bomb Squad, good call, just to make sure you haven't got an even safer victory method. So you could Primordial Glyph and Volcanic Potion, ping down the 4-3, and then you're playing around the 1 in 70, and Crane is the sort of player who will factor that in for sure.
The thing is, even with Bomb Squad, you take 5 damage when your opponent deals it to you. It still wouldn't mean that the block gets popped next turn. I don't even think it's a huge disaster.
Right. That's the discussion they're having, though, because otherwise the play is obvious. I think they can afford to glyph and decide after.
No.
But they just go straight with this, see what they get.
Yeah, that's not a Bomb Squad.
That's not a Bomb Squad. That is, in fact, a Doom Guard. That is one of the best things you can get.
It's about as far the opposite of Bomb Squad as you can get, yeah.
Crane didn't panic play the glyph. He could have played it for 0, but because the rope was burning, he just decided to wait till next turn. It's no big one.
Does Talk go for this now? Arcanite Reaper, Heroic Strike? Because if it's not a counterspell, then it would pop the Ice Block. If it is a counterspell, then there's not much you can do about that. You've got to get rid of it at some point anyway. Yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't go for it.
Yeah, if the Heroic Strike gets countered, then you just do the Arcanite Reaper next turn. But no, he's going to wait.
Sure. I don't see what the benefit is to wait.
I guess the benefit is in the world where there's 2 counterspells, like your opponent's got another one in hand. If you draw another Heroic Strike, then you can proc it and do it all in one turn.
I guess the other benefit is if it wasn't a counterspell, you'd be popping the block at 8. You'd prefer to pop it a little bit lower, even if you're popping it at 4.
Well, he's doing it, but yeah. Okay. That's what that discussion was.
I still prefer him playing it here, though.
Yep. I think it's the right play. Despite the fact it didn't work out, it's the right play. And like you say, it puts that block closer to not being procced on 8.
Crane has a 0 mana Primordial Glyph in hand. He can play Mana Worm and Glyph, and maybe the spell that comes out of it, and Alexstrasza.
Another reason to keep the Glyph last turn. Why not? You usually
Mirror Image? Like sure. Play that and Alex. Why not?
Yep.
How do you possibly lose the game? Look at that smirk from Crane. Definitely not mildly salty here.
Definitely not. And it looks like the time for Talk is done, and it's going to go to 2-0 to Denmark with 1 game left to see if they can stay in the Hearthstone Global
do
game.
You know what? Not even caring about playing defensively.
Yeah, Pyroblast in hand. And 2-0 Denmark staying alive.
1 step closer, as you said. Still a lot of steps to go for Denmark, so don't get too excited yet. They need to win, or Indiran needs to win the next game, and then Kazakhstan need to win 3 games in a row. But it's a possibility. Like, the end is in sight for Denmark. Still a long way away, but they can see it. They can maybe even taste it.
Yeah, they get it over with. And they won't have to wait long, because the next match on, if Denmark do convert this, the next match on is that Kazakhstan versus Canada match, I believe.
Yes, it is. It is. It's the next series after this one. So we're going to find out sooner or later, one way or another. But before we jump ahead of ourselves too much, Indiran's going to be on the Shaman, best Marmot on the Paladin.
All right, nothing more to say about the Shamans. Paladins, we've already had this matchup, it feels like 20 times today. It's not very likely given that it's the second match of the day, but those 2 classes just ever present here in this tournament.
Best Marmot is not new to competition. In his youth, he played chess competitively. And he's also always been a big fan of World of Warcraft, which is why he started playing Hearthstone, because he was very interested in the lore, and he decided he wanted to follow it, and obviously enjoyed the game a lot because he's here now.
And do you know how excited he is for this tournament on his feedback form?
How excited?
Apparently it's over 9,000.
Over 9,000?
There you go. That's how excited he is right now.
That's a pop culture reference for you guys back home.
That is actually what he replied on the forum. That's not just me being some sort of groovy dad guy. That's actually what he said. Yeah, I just said that. I won't do it again.
Inderin, formerly a member of the London Conspiracy, I say this every week, formerly a teammate of Ravens,
Wow.
our good friend, took a break from Hearthstone for quite a while last year, or earlier this year. I think it was last year.
Being a teammate with Raven tends to do that to you.
I think he was interested in becoming an author at that time.
Yeah, he was. I think he has been writing quite a bit. So interesting to see what comes of that. But back into it now.
Back into Hearthstone now.
Lured him back in. He watches, even when he was writing, he was always watching streams. One of these guys who tends to watch a lot of the smaller streams. If you're ever looking for Indoin online, you'll find him in something under 1,000 viewers, and likes to chat and talk about the game when he's watching. That's why. But yeah, he watched enough and was like, I can do better than these guys. He won't say that. He's too modest, but that's what he was thinking. And he's come back into the game. And
himself and Crane, I believe, pretty good friends. They themselves make a good team.
Yeah, they
add Hoy and Freddie B into the mix, and you've really have got a force to be reckoned with Denmark. All the more reason that they want to prove themselves and get through to the second stage of this competition.
Yeah, I'm torn today. I really want Denmark. They're one of the teams I would love to see go a long way in this tournament. But the Canadian team is also full of really interesting players that I'd like to see go a long way. Sometimes it's a hard life having to watch this happen.
Denmark or Canada, how do you choose between them? I know how you choose between them. Canada is Rob Wing's team. So
let's go Denmark.
Yeah. I mean, we managed to trash Sottle in that same way yesterday by supporting.
We're so dead when we get home.
Can we just stay in Poland?
We're going to be grounded.
We should just stay in Poland.
Sottle's going to just not let us have any dinner. Nor's Rob.
Actually, like we're some sort of cast of family, you know? We go home to Sottle and Raven, and they've prepared our dinner for... this is getting weird.
Get Raven doing the ironing.
He does do that. Genuinely.
Anyway, I'm sure he'll love you revealing that live on stream. I was pretending it was a meme. As we are waiting for this game to be set up, we're just trashing all of our compatriots here. Don't trash anybody else, Dan. Only me and you left to trash each other.
Production, can we start this game soon, please? Production? Are we starting? We're waiting for France.
Everything that went through my head there is unbroadcastable.
Just waiting for France before we can start with this next game. The Shaman versus the Paladin matchup we've seen a lot of recently. Shaman, again, we've been talking about this all day. Not really much more we can say about it. It's going to be Evolve Shaman. Paladin, we've been saying a lot about how the N'Zoth Paladin, the slower Paladin, has been becoming more and more popular. But I feel as though in the last 2 days we've seen majority aggressive Paladins, more mid-rangey.
We have for this event, yeah. And I think that the tournament hasn't quite gone into that control meta that the rest of the world's gone into, the way this one-on-one works here. And so playing a really slow N'Zoth is just asking to get slapped about, I feel.
Sorry, I'm just thinking about Sottle preparing us dinner now.
I don't even want to know. I don't like mushrooms anyway.
Does he cook? Does Sottle cook?
Nice mushrooms.
I reckon he does. I have a feeling Sottle does cook.
I imagine he does. Not the most awkward pause ever or anything at all. Evolve, why do they only play Doppelgangster? Why aren't they playing Masters of Evolution and other such value minions?
It's just not enough. It's just not, it doesn't do enough. Like, a lot of the time you'll play it and there won't be a decent target for it, whereas Evolve, you can hold on to it and it blows your whole board up and just has such a game flipping effect when it does come down onto the board.
We're sorry to report, after that enthralling trashing of all of our colleagues, that the Hearthstone has broken out into this Talkstone channel, and we are now going to see if Denmark can keep themselves in this event. Indorin at the controls for what is definitely 100% an Evolve Shaman.
Yes, there's an Evolve there. So even if it wasn't the regular Evolve Shaman that we're used to, calling this an Evolve Shaman would still be accurate. Going to be, well, a more control-y Paladin on Best Marmot's side, as we can see from the equality mainly. But Rag Lightlord doesn't make it into all aggressive Paladin decks, though it's in most of them. And there you go, Adult Peacekeeper, another control-y card. Stampeding Coda also indicative of the Curator being in the deck. Obviously, Curator's very strong in this sort of deck. It pulls out Hydrologists, it pulls out Kodos, it pulls out Primordial Drakes, and that's cute.
What was it I missed? Was it a dog?
I think it was a dog.
Or was it a marmot?
What's a marmot?
don't know, but this is the best one that we are watching.
That's true.
Currently. Okay, so France off to a decent start, and Denmark are definitely not off to a decent start. Maybe the Jade Claws will be just enough to save them, though.
Yeah, Jade Claws into Flame Tongue Totem will be a possibility, or even Jade Claws into Hero Power. It's not the best, I wouldn't say it's the worst either. Now, in this matchup, I'm going to go with the Getaway Coda. That's the highest value secret you can take for certain.
Yeah, whether they can get that value remains to be seen, because one thing that this Shaman deck does is pressures you from all directions. It'll pressure you from having a wide board, it'll pressure you from having the explosiveness of the Evolve turn, and it will just mean you have to use up resources. So when that Getaway Coda gets played, it will be interesting to see.
Now, Best Marmot isn't going to want to play Rockpool Hunter here without buffing a minion, really, especially as he can now put the Valfin Inquisitor down and always have a Murloc on the board in the future. But is this with Getaway Coda really good enough? He's going to go for it anyway.
Yeah, I guess he's thinking, well, if this turn ends up being a Flame Tongue turn, then I don't really mind. Okay, so I don't get any value from the minion, but my opponent has an awful Hearthstone turn. And Indrin may well be tempted just to press the Hero Power button here and try and build a slightly wider board.
I prefer the Hero Power button here because weapon plus 1/1 is going to deal with this. I guess he has to consider the chance of a noble sacrifice.
He does,
and the
so
chance
he may
of a redemption as well.
first with the weapon and see what happens.
But there's also the chance of redemption, which kind of does the same thing in this position. Because if it's a redemption, then it would take 3 hits to kill it, or a hit from the Jade Golem with the Flame Tongue first, then a hit from the Jade Claws to finish it off.
One of the other key factors in this decision is this thing from below. Looks like it's going to be one of the only minions they can play for the first 2 or 3 turns here. And so getting totems of some sort on the board. Okay, this turn is obvious, but they've got to think going forwards. Do we want to play 2 totems next turn? And getting as many totems rolled as possible could be important here.
Okay, Getaway Coda going to do its thing. Pop Valfin Inquisitor back into the hand. Now, next turn, Best Marmot can play the Inquisitor again and buff it up with the Rockpool Hunter. That doesn't seem too bad at all. Your 1-drop turns into a 2/4.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. And challenging these totems. Anything with 2 attack versus Shaman, especially if he's got a decent amount of health that these guys have, is always useful to you.
Maelstrom Portal not going to do all that much right now. Not going to do anything, in fact, apart from deal a little bit of damage. Though Indrin's hand just looking so poorly at the moment.
So, Maelstrom Portal, roll a boar, play Flame Tongue, clear the board.
That's the play. Why a boar? Why not patches?
Why not patches? We had patches last time I was here.
You prejudice against pirates today, Neil?
No, last time I was here we had patches happen.
Gonna go for it. Let's go. Let's get a charger. Just not deckhand. That's the second time today that's happened.
Yeah, the Murloc that was getting killed was replaced by the Murloc on the other side.
Last time it was Chum. This time Valfin Inquisitor. But yeah, it's eerie.
Eerie things.
Now,
but
Best Marmot doesn't actually have the best turn here either. It's very mana inefficient, though he is getting rid of the Flame Tongue Totem. And Indrin needs to find a way to get rid of that Murloc War Leader. He could Bloodlust it, but that feels like such a waste.
He does get to roll a totem, play Thing from below to at least populate the board going into the Eye turn. While your opponent's busy messing around cleaning all that up, you are buying yourself time over and over again. Unfortunately, this Kodo, behave please, France, is going to be a real pain when it is played.
I wonder, what is Thing from Below into Evolve an option here? You get a 2-mana minion, which probably won't have better stats than the Valfin Inquisitor. It's worth noting that. But you also get a 7-mana minion instead of the Thing from Below.
Is that much better than a 5/5? I mean, it's not bad. I mean, you're right, it is an improvement. If they can think of a couple of good minions that will get them out of trouble, then it is what they will do. Like if there's a 7-mana charge minion. I don't know if there is. Skycap and Crag, maybe.
I think you're at rotated out as Grand Tournament. I think you're right. I think the Thing from Below is better, just because it trades to roll with this board. But actually, I'm going to go with the Bloodlust.
Yep.
Best Marmot got a huge smile on his face there, and I'm not surprised. He's also now got a Quality and Consecration in his hand, which is massive for dealing with the Doppelgangster Evolve board when that happens.
The interesting thing with this Bloodlust is it's taken away the value from the Kodo. it's taken away the value from the consecration. It's taken away the value from the peacekeeper. Even though when you suggested it, I sort of ignored it a little bit because I've heard your suggestions before.
Wow.
But I
shots fired all over the place today.
I'm in a shots firing kind of mood. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense now you see it in action. So credit to you as well, because it's taken away so much value from this hand.
Yeah, I don't know what Best Marmot does here. Maybe he just plays the Kodo anyway. I think he has to.
Or maybe you just play the Peacekeeper anyway. What massive attack minions are in the opposing deck? Given that you've got Equality Consecration to deal with a potential doppelgangster, maybe you want to keep the Kodo because 0-3 totems are a thing. Maybe just play the Peacekeeper for...
That's a good point. I like it a lot, actually, because then you can hero power as well. Best Marmot agrees with you. Turns out to be the best play, at least as far as Team France are concerned. Now, I guess Indurain just going to have to curve into Aya. But this is going to be the second Jade Golem. I think
yeah, they played Jade Claws earlier. Don't think we've seen anything else. It'll be a 2-2.
And then a 3-3.
Yeah, it's decent. It's a decent way of occupying this board here.
But Spike-Rich Steed looking incredibly powerful here. Going to allow the hero power token to deal with Aya. The Outdoor Peacekeeper and the Rockpool Hunter can just trade into the other two minions if Best Marmot wants to clear the entire board. Though the Spike-Rich Steed is weak to Devolve, which is something to consider when playing it against Shaman. Right.
And that left-hand card has been there for a long time, but you've seen a Bloodlust on one minion played. That's the read that Devolve isn't in their hand, or wasn't at that time at least. And definitely Denmark are a team that do spend time reading what their opponent's hand is for sure.
I'm trying to work out how Indurain wins this, because the Doppelgangster evolve turn
twice.
It's just going to right. Well, yeah, he just needs to do it twice.
Just do it twice.
But I'm just thinking, is there any way in the first one he could roll? He could get 3 cans from it, and then he'd survive the Equality Consecration.
Sure.
But it's
they can get good rolls from the first one. They can also. They're not dying anytime soon.
No.
That's one of the things here. This Paladin deck's not really putting them under much pressure. And so, you know, other ways to build a big board may become apparent, and then you can Bloodlust, but definitely looking difficult for them.
Gonna get patches from that Blood Cell Corsair. I don't believe we've seen it this game yet. It doesn't do anything though. That Spike-Rich Steed is so frustrating because of the Staggadon that this Murloc is going to leave in its place once it dies. Devolve would be so helpful this turn, but it's not present in Indurain's hand.
Another way to potentially win the game, maybe survive long enough that your Jade Lightning start to make big-bodied Jade minions. Maybe pick up another Jade Claws, maybe start making some 5/5, 6/6s down the line.
Wait, is this turn going to have to be Blood Cell Corsair hero power thing from below Evolve?
Could be.
Because you've got 2 Evolves in your hand, you can kind of get away with doing that. It's...
Yep.
Oh, it's messy. It's really messy, but it does give Denmark a potential push. And if it does bait out the Equality Consecration, and then Indurain draws the Doppelgangster, then he has a good chance to win the game.
And your Jade costs 3, so you're turning it into a minion with good stats a lot of the time.
No, it's a 1/4.
Didn't really work.
A 1/1, a 1/2, and a 1/4. These are some awful Evolves there. Indurain, he was giving us a smile there, but I don't think he is feeling too happy about this.
No, I don't think he is either. Edwin Van Leaf just not going to do it here. And the downside of doing it then, of course, this means if it went wrong, they couldn't do the second one. They trusted in the numbers, and on this occasion, the numbers didn't trust in Denmark.
At least the 7-mana card became a 6/6. The thing from below got a slight buff. It just lost its taunt.
Consecration would have dealt with most of those boards. It just would have hurt more the Murlocs, to be fair.
Yep.
It wouldn't have made a huge difference. It looks impressive and it looks awful, but actually, they'd have to have rolled pretty high to survive all this stuff that's coming in anyway, and there's always the equality anyway, worst case. So it was a desperation move from Denmark, but it was definitely the right one.
So there is still a small chance of Denmark picking up Doppelgangster here and playing Doppelgangster and Evolve. I mean, they could play Hero Power as well, Doppelgangster, Hero Power, Evolve. Unfortunately, Equality's still sitting there in Best Marmot's hand, so I don't see a scenario in which he cannot deal with Denmark's board.
Yeah, and of course, this will mean that Denmark are out of the tournament. But it won't put them out of the match, and they will still want to win this match. A hugely competitive team. You just don't do as well in Hearthstone as these guys have done if you're not hugely competitive.
No.
But let's see if they can find a way to turn this around first. They'll be discussing now. You can see Induin talking pretty much incessantly now. The players will be discussing what is our way to win. Is the Doppelgangster going to be enough? What do we think France have left to counter that with? How do we build another wide board? They haven't drawn a single primal thing yet. How can they maybe set up the board for that going forward if they do draw it? And they will have to start talking in terms of, at some point, how do we clear this board in case we top deck the right card?
Primal Fin feels very much like a dead draw here. They're considering maybe playing the Evolve, but that does feel like you're just using up everything you could possibly have. Is there any way they can sneak a win with Bloodlust? Doesn't look like they're going to be able to take control of the board this game.
Yeah, it doesn't look like they're ever going to get the board. And like you say, maybe they're considering the Evolve now and get it over with. I feel like they're not dying for another turn or two. Maybe they'll wait one more turn. This might be just a diversion turn. Okay. It does deal with quite a lot of stuff. Oh dear.
Well, Best Marmot's going to just want to hold on to that. He can trade away this board easily. Just using his minions, he can develop Ragnaros Lightlord, save Consecration to play with Equality later, just to 100% guarantee destruction of a Doppelgangster Evolve board.
Yep, and that is exactly what he's going to do. He's got everything he needs now. If Induin could see the opposing hand, he would probably give this game up. He cannot, so he's going to play it out, but we can see this one is basically over.
Live, Murloc!
Murloc lives.
Stonehill Defender, okay, one of the better cards, I guess, that Induin can draw here. Alakir, Silverback Patriarch, and White
Eyes might be the pick just to give them some sustain later in the game. Alakir is the one that's more impactful immediately. Yeah.
Is drawing a 5-mana 10/10 even good enough for Induin here, though?
In terms of buying even more time to get deeper, it might be. It counts as removal, which you don't have any of. You need urgently.
But Best Marmot just going to go ahead and trade Ragnaros Lightlord into that. Trade his Murlocs, I believe, into the Stonehill Defender. There's no... Or just play Stampeding Coda, that's even easier. There's no reason to waste the valuable Equality Consecration here.
No, they would just hold on to that for the entire game, I should think. And very soon they're going to have assembled a board that's big enough just to kill Denmark in 2 turns anyway.
All right.
Chance now just to trade off the 3-1 and the 2-3 if they want to, then keep the big sturdy minions still alive. That is what they're going to go with here. They do know they might need to get through a 10-10 later, so... This still sets up lethal though for next turn.
Meanwhile, Best Marmot, Ragnaros just doing the best it can, healing everything up to full health. Why not? Jade Claws not going to do much at all. And Induin dropping the concede. That's it for Denmark. This series isn't over yet, but they are no longer in the running. Canada can safely go through and guaranteed a place in Stage 2 of the Hearthstone Global Games. I know I'm talking about a totally different team that's not playing right now, but that's just the way it happens.
Sure.
Just the way it works out.
They'll still be playing to see if they can win the group. They'll make Rob Wing a happier man than he already is. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. And now Denmark just going to see if they can get the job done. If you go 3-2 and do miss out on tie breaks, at least you get something to moan about. And I would definitely be in the mood for trying to get something to moan about. I'd definitely want to go 3-2.
Let's take a look at the next game then. It's gonna be Hoy on the Priest versus Dizdemon on the Shaman. Hoy was hoping he wouldn't have to play today. Him playing already means that they're out of the competition. It always meant that they would have been out of the tournament, but unfortunately, he is going to be competing, and he's going to be playing the Priest.
He's going to be playing Priest, and he knew that if he was playing, then they were out.
Right.
So who knows what Priest we might see here?
That's a good point, actually. I don't know. I still can't help but think it's probably going to be Silence Priest, although based on everything I've seen up until yesterday, on the ladder and in tournaments, honestly, I'd prefer to see a different type of Priest.
I also think that Hoy will push 100% for the win, not just because professional integrity and all that stuff, which we always talk about, which these guys definitely have, but if you come 25th in a tournament where 24 teams progress, things have been known to happen.
Sure.
You know, teams just say, we don't want to play, or something incredible happens.
I have to admit, that hadn't even crossed my mind.
You want to be that 25th team just in case for some reason something happens. There's always that tiny percentage chance, and sometimes this is what this game's about, of things going your way.
I wouldn't want to be responsible for calculating which the 25th team is in this tournament. I would not want that.
You might be, yeah.
I am quite happy talking about the games as we see them in front of us. That maths is just too much for me.
But we have seen scenarios where things have changed. More in individual tournaments, in fairness. In a team tournament, I don't see how that could happen. But, you know, where if coming 9th is actually a 1 or 2% chance of you getting through various things that can happen. So I think these teams will be looking to go as high up the ladder as they can. There might be seedings for next year on the line. That hasn't been announced how that will be done yet, that sort of thing. Still lots of things to play for.
Yep.
So, Silence Priest.
Silence Priest is the way to go. Well, others would argue that Silence Priest isn't even the best Priest deck right now. So I'm not even suggesting that they'd play a different type of Priest just because they're trying to meme. But Control Priest is genuinely one to keep an eye on. If you haven't seen it or played it at home, then just check it out at least. Mr. Yaguk piloted a build to Legend last season, or earlier this season rather, did very, very well with it. There's been some further developments, as we were saying earlier, Mind Control being added to the deck. The first I noticed of it was actually last week. I realized that a load of Priest decks was suddenly playing, is it Crystalline Oracle? Is that the name of the card? The one-man?
The one, yep.
Like, loads of Priests started playing that. And after about the 4th or 5th game, I was thinking to myself, this is weird. I'm sure that's not in any Priest deck I know about. And that's when I started asking around and discovered this Yaguk Priest deck. But it is a thing, and it's something to watch.
Yeah, I mean, people have played Control Priest since the dawn of time. People have always wanted it to work. I'm not sold yet, but I've seen players doing very well with it, and it seems to have a spot in this greedy ladder at the moment. I think as soon as the ladder switches back to being very quick again, we won't be having this discussion.
I think, don't quote me on this, I'm not 100% certain, but I believe Tyler was somewhere around rank 38 Legend with it today.
Yeah, he was those 50 for sure.
And when I was watching him last week with the same deck saying, yep, I'm going to hit Legend with this, he wasn't Legend, he was rank 2 or rank 3 or something. So he's obviously gone up the ranks with the deck. He's now way up there in high Legend. So he's proven that it can work. And he was actually arguing with people in his Twitch chat back before he hit Legend with the deck. They were saying, Tyler, why are you playing meme decks? He's like, I don't play meme decks. I think this deck's good, guys.
Yeah, he does not indeed. He's got plenty of games of Hearthstone to play. He doesn't need to mess around with them. Tyler, the ultimate grinder, and he will love me for saying that as well.
Yeah, well, it's absolutely true. But players at hand here, it's going to be, who hasn't paid yet for France? It's Hoy versus, I apologize, I've already forgotten, as we both quickly check on it. It's Dizdemon.
It is indeed Dizdemon, one of the players who had, in 2016, he had the most preliminary wins in all of Europe. A player that sort of snuck under the radar, but the day that show didn't manage to get there on time, Dizdemon took advantage and got himself into, not only into the top 8, but into the leader of my personal baby of just stats and numbers. Yeah. He took the lead on that.
He is both the anchor and team captain for France. You talked about him earlier and said, when I was saying, hey, the load of YouTubers, you were saying, actually, Dizdemon is very competitive, and you're right. I'm not saying the rest of France aren't competitive, but he really is. He's the guy with the competitive pedigree on the team. He still plays for Millennium, is that right?
I must admit, I'm not up to date. I don't know. Millennium went quite a few changes over the last few months. So,
well, that's what my records show, but they could be out of date, so keep that one in mind. He used to race Zixo to Legend.
That doesn't sound like a winning proposition.
Apparently he used to do it.
Did he win?
Quite competitive.
I used to race Zixo to Legend, but when he got there, I was like ranked 13.
He used to wake up at the start of each season, right, this is going to be my season. I'm going to race to Legend, but I'm not going to get there before the pro players do. Anywho, we apparently are going to have to take a short 5-minute break as there's something going on with France. We don't know exactly what's happening, but we'll be back in just a moment.
We're almost there. Quiet down, everyone. This is not like any of our previous expeditions. This will be far more ambitious. We're stepping into a land of primordial wonder. Infused with astonishing elemental energies. The plant life here holds very unusual properties. So don't touch anything. And while you may be excited to see the local fauna, you might want to make sure they don't see you. Because their powers of adaptation are devastating. Make no mistake, we will be tested at every turn. But if we stay on our guard, we might just survive. Now then, are you ready? Then let's journey into Ongoro Crater.
Welcome back. Sorry for that short break, which we weren't expecting.
We needed 5 minutes for Falk to find his pen.
I did find it. It was somehow buried behind a load of things. It had Adler and had fallen off my lap during that last series, but I am relieved to be reunited with it. Anyway, more importantly, there were some internet connectivity issues, I think, for France. They've got it sorted. We are going to move straight on with the next game as planned, so no further disruption. We'll be starting this momentarily. As it shows on the screen, it's still going to be Hoi on the Priest versus Dizdemon on the Shaman.
Yep, and guess we've done all the talkstone regarding that one, and you were spared 5 minutes of it by that short break, for which I'm sure you are eternally grateful, and you should thank all of Poland's production team for that.
We still talkstone. We just did it off stream.
We never stop talking about Hearthstone.
No.
That's what we do.
It's kind of why we're here, really. We do enjoy talking about Hearthstone a lot. Anyway, I can see the game starting up on my other monitors, so right before our eyes, let's go. Shaman versus Priest. It's gonna be the Silence Priest, as you predicted, Vohoi.
Silence Priest with a decent-looking hand. Ancient Watcher and Purify is always very nice. And then interesting to see how he decides to proceed with the Divine Spirit and the Acolyte of Pain. Because you don't have to win this with the Divine Spirit combo. You can just Purify your Watcher and start munching through the minions. One thing that Acolyte of Pain is pretty good in this matchup as well because of all the small things that Shaman has lying around. So he might keep the Watcher and the Purify and be tempted to keep the Acolyte for turn 3 play.
Big problem about this matchup for Hoi is, of course, the existence of the card Devolve. Whether France runs 1 or 2 copy, I've seen lists that have 1 and I've seen lists that have 2, but that card just completely shuts down a board full of minions that have been buffed up with Divine Spirits and Inner Fires and all of that stuff.
Yeah, you spend a lot of your time in this matchup just not dying as the Priest. It's kind of strange. It's thought of as a combo deck that wins on turn 5 or 6, but one thing you can do is just take your time, kill a few things, and see where you're at. And it turns out that a 4-5 on turn 1 that can attack on turn 2 is actually a good minion.
You have to be a little bit careful if you play the slow game, though. We saw one of the players yesterday, and I'm afraid I don't recall which, but end up just running out of resources entirely, and all he had in his hand at the end, like out of cards in his deck, 2 Faceless Chandlers in his hand, and that was it, because he just run out of stuff.
It's a little bit like Freeze Mage was before Evolved Kobold went into it. So we're talking about a year ago, where you could afford to use a certain amount of resources in dealing with your opponents, as long as you didn't go too far. And the best Freeze Mage players at that time, who are still the best Freeze Mage players now, were the ones who could work out exactly how far to push that. And this deck is like that, except you have fewer resources. And in this case, the resources are your big minions. And for the large part, you just want to use, let's say, you played a 4-5 with no downside on turn 1 here. Because turn 2, you're going to sort that downside out.
I think it may have been Stanadachi yesterday who ran out of the resources on the Silence Priest. Just checking my notes there. But yeah, so Purify seems like a good option here. I guess he could heal up the Ancient Watcher. If France are already attacking it before you silence it, maybe there's no need to silence it. Just heal it up, let France keep wasting his damage on it.
And this is where playing against the deck can be hard work, because you want to put a lot of time into making sure these minions don't have huge health totals, so you can't just have them turned into 20/20s and kill you. But if you spend too much time doing that, actually you're just helping them progress their game plan, which is stop you from having any stuff yourself.
I like this a lot. There's a sort of a mix between the 2 plays that I just suggested. You play the Silence so that you can still squeeze in the heal. There's no way on board for Disneyman to get rid of this Ancient Watcher, so it's nice and secure at the moment. And as we can see, there's no way in Disneyman's hand to deal with it either. His turn here is looking a little bit sticky. He can play Flame Elemental. That's a bit underwhelming. He can play Jade Claws again. That might actually be his best bet. He doesn't mind overloading himself too much this turn either.
He set his stall out that he's not going to let these health minions do much, but each time you hit yourself in the face, you are also meaning that less Divine Spirits need to be played. Obviously now 22 is a decent number. You only get to get a 4-11 or something at that point, double it up to 22, off you go. It gets easier and easier, the lower the health total of the opponent.
Hoi picks up the second silence there. Unfortunately, he's in this position where he's got 2 silence effects in his hand and nothing to use them on. He can... It looks like his turn might just be heal up the Ancient Watcher, trade it in again, pass.
It does look like that. Another option is to Shadow Visions and try and hit a shield, which would use your mana a little bit more efficiently, but I'm not sure it's actually any better in the long run anyway, so you're probably going to heal up. But if he does Shadow Visions, get a shield, he can at least start cycling through his deck into another minion. If
you're healing and trading, I think you're trading with the 1/1 as well to try and force Disneyman to trade both the 2/2 and the weapon in. If he heals and trades into the 2/2, then all it would take would be the weapon to deal with the Ancient Watcher. So while it might look more appealing to deal with the minion that has more attack, this is one of those positions where it's actually better to do it the other way around.
feel like Denmark are thinking about the play that I mentioned and just working out how many spells there are, what the chances are of hitting it.
Not that high by the looks of it. Purify, Potion of Madness, Divine Spirit popping up from this Shadow Visions. Potion of Madness not going to do all that much this turn, unfortunately, so Hoy's going to have to just pass here.
Yeah, and that is going to be the end of the Ancient Watcher. Sounds like a particularly bad poem.
If Hoy can pick up a Radiant Elemental, then this Lyra does have the potential of creating a huge swing turn.
Yeah, it really does. Something Zuka was telling me a long time ago when I was learning this deck. One of the first things you learn is that Lyra is your only comeback mechanism.
Right.
Inner Fire, not the card you're looking for anytime soon.
Lyra is just a minion where if it survives, if your opponent can't deal with it, it wins you the game.
Right.
Especially in the later part when you've got 10 mana to actually spend on the spells.
So a play you can't do here is Potion of Madness to 1/2, Purify it to get a card, and then run it into the 2/2.
No, because Purify sends it back. Did you? Yeah, I've tried it.
Doesn't work.
The only situations where I find Potion of Madness into Purify helpful is when my opponent's played a Doomsayer. You can Potion of Madness that, Purify it, just to get the silence effect off.
Right.
It returns to your opponent's side of the board, but its effect is gone. That can be helpful.
Play that I don't think they will do, but they could do the Potion of Madness and Inner Fire to boost it to a 2/2. That would work, of course.
Oh, that's such a waste of your
Yeah, it's too many resources, of course.
Powered Shield coming this time along with Divine Spirit. This is actually pretty tough. Divine Spirit means that you've got more chance of a crazy swing turn later on, but Powered Shield is certainly more helpful here.
Yeah, I think the Powered Shield, worst case, at least you get to stick it on your Lyra in a couple of turns' time. But this is not going well at all for Denmark. The downside of not having too many minions in your deck is that sometimes you don't draw enough minions.
The downside of not having any board clears in your deck is that you can't clear the board.
Right.
Simple as that, really. And against Token Shaman, you need to clear the board sometimes, especially in the next couple of turns. Thing from below could come down. Aya. Hoy's going to need to get rid of these cards.
Worth bearing in mind, France are down to 18 health, and they will have very little way of healing back up unless they can Stonehill a Hot Spring Guardian later on. 18, not that hard for this priest deck to do in one turn, if somehow, after the Lyra turn, the priest can get back on the board. So there's all the tools needed to have a Lyra turn, but that's turn 7, where all of these 1-drops would turn into noughts, and Hoy could go absolutely crazy, but surely he can't get there without just being dead to Bloodlust. 2
more turns. It's so close, but it's so far as well. Potion of Madness will deal with the 2/2, but only the 2/2. And again, you'd love to save it to play it on turn 7.
Yeah, trying to work out there's some sort of Potion of Madness into Powered Shield, Inner Fire, but there's not.
Okay, this is a pretty nice way of starting. See what we can get from this.
Tar Creeper's actually pretty handy here.
So drop that down, then what happens? The Radiant Elemental still dies. There's Jade Lightning in hand. I don't think Disdemon would be tempted to just play Aya. That seems a little bit too risky to me, leaving the Radiant Elemental alive when there's the potential of a Lyra ready to go.
But is there much they can do about it?
Well, yeah, Jade Lightning on its own with the spell damage totem up would get rid of the Radiant Elemental.
Sure. Means they don't get through anything else this turn, though. Interesting to see how this one progresses.
It would be better to use the Jade Lightning on the Tar Creeper and then trade the Thing from Below into the Radiant
Sure,
Elemental.
I prefer that.
The Thing from Below will survive. The rest of the
that
board will
works for me.
survive. It's very strong. It's just the only thing Disdemon's going to be wondering now is, do I need to develop this Aya as soon as possible? It's a risk, and it's a risk that we can see would not pay off.
Yeah, I don't think they mind Jade Lightning, get a minion from that, and then play Hero Power when you've got Bloodlust in hand. You're in no hurry for the Aya. Disdemon made it very clear right from the start that he's not going to let Denmark keep any amount of health on the board, and he's just going to do it this way. And
just such a good play.
No patches yet either, so Bloodcell Corsair will put another minion on the board.
You could even evolve if you wanted to, though. That does risk summoning a Doomsayer.
Let's see, does this set up lethal without the evolve? He's going to evolve anyway.
Gotta do it. It's a bit of a smirk there by Disdemon. Okay, so the Shimmering Elemental gives Disdemon a chance of a random mage spell. Could be helpful later. is it Grotesque Harpy? Something like that. 5/5 with Wind Fury. 7 mana is 5/5 with Wind Fury. Very good with Bloodlust. An 8 attack minion that has Wind Fury is pretty good.
I think what you have to do here as Denmark is set out to silence that thing you were talking about. Grotesque, whatever.
Pretty sure the word grotesque is in its name.
You have to Potion of Madness, the 2/1, run it into something and draw your spell off that as well. And you get all your Aya stuff going on and see where you stand. Where you stand is probably in a bloodlusty mess.
All right, Potion of Madness on the Shimmering Elemental seems good. Shadow of Death, not actually going to be able to deal with the Wind Fury this turn. So we'll have to see what spell Hoy gets. There's Freezing Potion. That is a 0 mana spell that Hoy could get to put a stop to that Wind Fury this turn. Blizzard's not going to do anything. Silent's going to have to do the trick.
Okay, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12. 12 and 12 is 24, and I believe that is just lethal.
It is just lethal. My maths agrees with your maths, Neil. This is going to go to the final game, which means that Denmark aren't even going to be losing just on the third tiebreaker. We're now in second tiebreaker territory. For those of you back home that don't know exactly the way this works, first tiebreaker is obviously match score. That's the main thing that is decided between. Second tiebreaker is game score. Now, thanks to this win, Denmark's game score is going to be lower in total than Canada's, even if Canada lose 3-0 in the next series.
And the third tiebreaker is magic.
It's magic. It's not magic. It's opponent's match score. So it's
beaten opponent's match
it's
score.
Beaten opponent's match score. So if you have beaten the teams which are at the top in your group, you're going to have a better third tiebreaker than those that hadn't. And Denmark's third tiebreaker isn't that great. They've actually beaten the players that are the teams that are lower in their group and lost to the ones that have been higher in their group.
Yep, that's how it works out. That's what happened to Russia. They beat the two teams at the bottom of their group, which means the way that you'd think about it, if you just looked at it, they've beaten the easy teams.
Basically makes you a bully. Right? You're just beating the losers.
Yeah, it does.
Freddie B on the Rogue, Dizdemon on the Mage. Once again, Rogue. Have we even seen a single Miracle Rogue this week?
We have not. We keep talking about how Miracle Rogue is advancing on the ladder and how people are starting to play Miracle Rogue much more than they used to. We haven't seen one at all.
Well, we might see a Miracle. And someone
it
might
would be a miracle if we did,
Rogue.
I think.
Yeah. I'd like to see it. I've talked yesterday a lot about how I really enjoy Sherazin. Just the card makes me happy for some reason. Especially in gold when it's like bouncing around and smiling. I like to bounce around and smile.
We noticed.
Was it Sartle that used to say that the elementals that are spawned from Kalimos in gold, they bounce up and down? Makes him happy.
Potatoes?
Yeah. Or was it may have been Raven. I don't remember which of them it is. Sounds more like a Raven thing to say.
Would Raven or Sottle likely be the one that was happy about something?
Well, it sounds more like a Raven thing to say.
It does.
But I'm sure it was Sottle. I just get confused. I don't know which is which.
Sottle does like the tabby cat, to be fair.
Yeah. You can't not like the tabby cat.
Even I like the tabby cat.
Yeah. I don't know. I like Navi-Oot. I can't tell the difference between Raven and Sottle half the time, especially since he chopped his hair off.
Wow. No dinner for you tonight.
Raven used to have such a nice ponytail, but...
Wow.
That's right, right?
I'm not even going to correct you anymore. If you just want to sink your own ship, young man, that's absolutely fine by me.
Right, let's go. Next game starting right now. Finding your friend's table is what's showing up on one of my screens here. So any moment now, I can leave the screen and I can feel their eyes burning on me right now. I can feel them like staring me down.
Them?
Well, Raven and Sottle specifically.
Right.
All right, let's go. It is actually going to be the Miracle Rogue for the first time this week.
Thank God this game
SA7
started.
Agent, yeah, right. Versus Mage.
Mage with Harrison Jones, which could be quite handy against a rogue, of course.
This looks most like a Discover Mage to me. I don't think Harrison Jones would ever fit in a Freeze Mage. I also don't think it would fit in a Secret Mage. And Flame Strike also doesn't necessarily fit in Secret Mage either. So my power of elimination has led me to believe this is a Discover Mage.
Okay. Let's see if we have discovered the right one of the three available Mage decks. We're going to have a good clue after this lot happens.
No, we're not.
No, we're not. We're just going to have no idea whatsoever.
Patches in Freddie B's opening hand. He's not looking too happy about that.
I think this would make a really good Blister Guy infographic. For those who don't follow Blister Guy on Twitter, give him a follow. He makes sort of just decent graphics.
Well, you'd like to see the difference between Discover Mage and Secret Mage?
And yeah, exactly. And like we keep saying, all these mages have the same cards. So I think the Blister Guy is absolutely awesome at that guy. Valuable member of the Hearthstone community.
Well deserved shout out there. So, to play patches or not to play patches on turn 1, that is the question for Freddie B right now. Reasons not to play it is that you can combo it with SI7 Agent a little bit later on. Maybe even a Cold Blood if he runs it. It's possible. So
it's good against Mirror Entity.
Yes, there are definitely reasons not to play it. He might decide he wants to just start getting the damage in though, in which case he will play it.
Yeah, you're normally in a hurry to control the board as the rogue, but you're not necessarily in a hurry to have a 1-1 sort of flapping its arms and dying to a ping. So I imagine we'll just see him pass here, and he'll be planning his future turns. Like, how do I see this match going? Like turn 2, I'm going to dagger. Turn 3, I'm going to backstab SI. What situations do I do that in? As we gain valuable information that this is not Secret Mage, but it could still be Freeze with a Harrison thrown in. Freeze Mage likes card draw. I'm with you. I think it's a Discover, but Freeze Mage doesn't mind a bit of card draw.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It would be a first. I think it would be the first time I've seen Harrison in a Freeze Mage. Using up the coins so quickly as well.
Right.
If this deck was running Antonidas, would he maybe have held on to it for a little bit?
Right, that's the thing that they would definitely hold on to. Hallucination is a card that we've seen a lot in Rogue. Surprisingly powerful for a card that doesn't look like it should be.
It's not going to give us any answers about this deck. A lot of people still get confused about this, but Hallucination shows you cards from your opponent's class, not cards from your opponent's deck. It's actually a key difference between Rogue cards in general and Priest cards.
Right.
Whereas Priest tends to pull cards that are from your opponent's deck, Rogue pulls cards that are from your opponent's class.
Yeah, the Priest just likes to just directly steal from you.
And Rogues only like to
Rogue
burgle.
just like to sort of just generally rob things.
Yeah. Still no firm answers about this mage. So much crossover between these decks.
Interesting. I do wonder, Disney is not happy about this. I'm not surprised. He's got none of the cornerstones of either deck, but I do wonder if maybe it is a freeze where you're a little bit more agitated if you don't get that early card draw.
Right. Even just having a Medivh's Valet would be quite helpful here. He's got the ice block ready to activate it, so just something to put on the board soon.
Same old question about Primordial Glyph. You want to use it as late as possible with as much information as possible about the game state when you cast it.
Yeah.
If you cast it now, you are guessing a bit. Now, against Rogue, Burn is good.
Yeah, he'll know that it's not a Quest Rogue because turn 1, Freddie B just passed.
Right.
So it's not possible for this to be a Quest Rogue.
But I don't but not necessarily just the matchup either.
Yeah.
Just how has the game developed. But you don't mind a little bit gambling with a glyph because burning a rogue tends to just be good.
There you go. Burn is good. Disneyman agrees with you. You're going to go ahead and slap that Frostbolt straight in Denmark's face there. And this turn isn't nice either. Freddie B would love to drop the SI7 agent, but he can't play it. Well, it doesn't get its effect without the combo, and he can't actually combo it. The backstab is unplayable at the moment.
However, how many targets are there really in Mage? I mean, there's quite a few. There might be Cabal Courier, for instance, something he would definitely want to do it to, but I feel that we can backstab, or he can backstab SI7 here, just to develop something on board, and then next turn, if he needs to do 2 damage to something, he has Patches and Fan of Knives as a kind of sad backup, or even Hero Power. Or just use a dagger into their 2/2 and the Fan of Knives. So I feel that just getting on with it, just getting something on board. I guess the question is, do you backstab at all? Do you just play the SI7 agent and keep the backstab? You can't backstab it, by the way.
No, you can't. It's damaged.
It's damaged.
Just unplayable.
Just waking myself up there. It is damaged. You can't backstab. I'm so sorry, chat. Yes, sap casters, backstab casters, eviscerate casters.
Volcano casters?
Perhaps you're hallucinating the casters, for all I know.
No, they don't want to do that.
Exactly. Go to a hospital immediately.
Meteor casters is one I've seen a lot.
Yeah,
like
that works well.
Ice block, though, pretty obvious play on turn 3, I think. Much better potential now. If Disdemon does pick up Medivh's Valet, that could clear something up. Now Freddie B has a few more options. He can play the Razor Petal Lasher. He can just use the weapon to get rid of the Arcanologist. Going to drop Patches, it looks like. So Patches into SI7 Agent is one way of comboing out the card.
And talking about the Discover effect we were on about a minute ago from Glyph, Freddie B using that same theory with hallucination, waiting to see, even though it would be an okay activator here, waiting to see the game's development before deciding what he needs from those hallucinations.
Right. Arcane Intellect, huh. Still not seeing any major hints either way. You said that if he was a freeze mage, it's Arcane Intellect he's going to want to be drawing. But I don't think we've spoken yet about which deck should be favored here. If it's freeze mage, I'm pretty sure it's significantly favored against Miracle Rogue.
I think mage just likes rogue in general at the moment, because the rogue has almost never got a taunt unless it's got a Biofin flying around in Quest Rogue, and it usually doesn't have healing either. So the mage can just defend itself and launch at your face.
I'm surprised that wasn't a faster pickup of the Ice Block as well, because I think that's that card is one of the reasons that mage is so favored against Rogue, because Rogue can make this crazy play. Yeah, they can make the huge Edwin, whatever. You freeze it for a few turns, you let it hit you and pop your Ice Block a couple times.
Talking of huge Edwins.
There he is. I called it. Freddie B would have to backstab one of his own minions if he wants to make this that huge this turn. Like, he could play backstab, hallucination, Edwin, which is actually okay. Backstab your own patches.
Depends what he thinks he is up against. I imagine at this point he thinks he's up against Freeze Mage, which means he's less likely to get his Edwin polymorphed.
What do we think he's up against?
I think it's Freeze Mage.
I
don't want to comment either, particularly on the spot there. I feel that it's so difficult.
Okay. Kalimos gotta be worth considering. Gonna take the Arcane Intellect. That's less conditionally good.
Yeah, I mean, Rogue used to play Sprint a lot. Arcane Intellect with preparation with a gadget sound on the board is pretty insane.
Babbling Book can grab himself another mage spell if he wants to. Gonna do it. Oh, yep, gonna go with the backstab Edwin Van Cleef, I think, if that hover was anything to go by.
Right, it is on.
8-8, right?
8-8. Edwin Van Cleef.
Okay.
Not easy to deal with this turn, but a Frostbolt will take care of it in the short term. And then allow that cheap Flame Strike to either finish it off later.
Yeah. And this is why Mage flourishes so much in this matchup. Just the ability to just freeze away the big minions for as long as they want. Even back during the Reno Mage versus Miracle Rogue thing, like there was a lot of debate over which deck is favored. It did depend how the mage was built.
Right.
But the ability to freeze the big minions over and over again definitely helps the mage out a lot.
And keeping an eye here, like if France survive to turn 10, they've got enough in hand to just win the game. They've got 19 damage in hand plus some pings as they go. That's easy way of doing 21, and that's another reason why this is so favoured. Of course, the Frostbolt won't be able to go face. It almost certainly has to deal with this Edwin. And they probably have to ping the Edwin as well and give their hand away a little bit here because they can't Flame Strike ping next turn. So we might see Freddie B. Yeah, he squints as he sees that. It's like, oh, you did that, did you?
Yeah, that's funny. They can't play Flame Strike until turn 7, so why would they do that now?
So this turn, Freddie will almost certainly Arcane Intellect. We might see him Babbling Book, just throwing it out there. Just to see what he gets.
Could he play Razor Petal Lasher as well? Is the most important thing about the card the Razor Petal you get from it?
The thing with Razor Petal Lasher for me is it's a bit more balanced both ways. Especially if he's playing a Questing Adventurers in the deck as well. He may want to save that for later so he can play both parts of it in one turn. If he strongly suspects Flame Strike, which he does, I suspect we won't see that.
Potion of Polymorph. Actually, looking at the hand that Disdemon has right now, Potion of Polymorph is looking very strong. Secrets are actually a way that Rogue can sneakily take the win in this matchup. If they can hallucinate an Ice Block, it tends to give them a much, much better shot at sustaining and winning with the big minions, surviving the burn damage and going on to win the game anyway. Potion of Polymorph isn't an Ice Block, but France is going to have to play around a lot of different secrets now.
Yeah, this is going to make it really awkward for them. They're going to be terrified that this is Counterspell, because if it's Counterspell and they throw out Flame Strike, they lose the game.
And if they weren't concerned about Counterspell before, Disdemon will have seen that card draw and think, oh,
yeah, that's a card.
We have to play around that.
Well, the Counterspell tends not to be in Freeze Mage. That might be our first proper 100% indicator of something that's going on here.
Harrison was an indicator, but on its own, it wasn't quite enough, I think, for us to draw the conclusion.
I would have happily gone on the side of Discover because of that, but the counterspell really rams it home.
Yeah. So 7 mana 8/8 going to come down now. Not playing around. Well, why would they play around Mirror Entity? That's a silly thing.
Yeah, they've already had a chance to do that.
Never mind.
No, it's not.
Rewind. Didn't say that.
It's fine. Cut. Denmark are pushing home quite a lot of damage now, but if anybody's shoulder slumped a bit there, he realises not only is this a bad matchup, but things haven't really been going their way. Losing the Van Cleef didn't use up as many resources as they would have hoped.
Ooh, Polymorph picked up at a very nice time. Spellbender is actually a possibility here. They know it's not Counterspell, but Spellbender would mess this Polymorph up a lot. Not that there's any way Disnamon can play around it. I think the play is just Polymorph this turn.
Yeah, eating 8, not completely the end of the world either. Alexstrasza in hand, if they actually have to Alexstrasza themselves, so be it. You already put the Rogue down to 21, so it's only 1 extra Fireball away. But yeah, that's very much on his mind here, as you can see.
Talking to his team a lot.
The question here is, right, so let's say it is Spellbender. What, like you said, what can we do about it anyway? I think we just have to throw it out there and hope, and they'll be rewarded for that conclusion. Yeah, he's happy.
Nice big smile. Look at that from Disnamon. Not going to be so happy if the next minion he plays is Alexstrasza, but in the meantime, he can enjoy this victory. Arcane Intellect. There's Sherazin. There's my good friend. Look at him bouncing around there like that.
Yep. He seems happy. Good for him.
He does seem happy. I'm happy for him. Being happy.
I never, ever want to see anything that grows in your garden, Dan. I just have images of such terror. Okay, how do they develop a board that wins this game in 3 or 4 turns from this point on?
But I think you definitely put Sherazin down. And that would be the entire turn. I guess that's the reason he's considering not doing it. Could maybe play Thalnos plus Razorblade or Lasher instead, but I just think Sherazin's better. It's a bigger body. If it dies, it comes back to life next turn, almost certainly. There you go. There he is in all his glory. When it dies, it goes dormant. That means it stays on the board as a seed, unless it's silenced beforehand or transformed beforehand. And then any turn the Rogue plays 4 minions in one, sorry, four cards in one turn, it just pops back to life. Hatches.
Yeah, and was put down quite a lot by people in the previews originally, thinking that maybe that just wasn't a good enough card. Turns out that when you have to deal with a 5/3, maybe even 3 times over the course of a game, that adds up to a lot of suddenly your opponent has no cards in their hand. However, on this particular occasion, you can see why people didn't think it was that great, because it's not going to be that great in this match.
With that Arcane Intellect, I'm pretty sure this is a Discover Mage now. Like, we can see 2 Mana Worms in the
Sure, yeah.
So there we go, 100%. Medea's Valet, very nice counter to Sherazin Corpus Flower, though. Doesn't get rid of it permanently. Again, you're about to see the seed that it turns into. Medea's Valet going to be turned into a sheep himself, which is quite nice sequencing there from Disnamon. I'm guessing he values his Mana Worms a lot higher than the Medea's Valet, so.
And now we're going to see a Blood Mace Thalnos Fan of Knives, quite possibly. That's going to be a lovely little board clear. It doesn't really get Denmark. This is the problem sometimes with Miracle Rogue, is if you don't get those auctioneers, you do a whole bunch of stuff that looks good, but doesn't actually get you anywhere. And now the question is, do you want to play the Lasher and a Petal to get your Sherazin back? And it looks like Freddie B's decided, yeah, we've got to get on. We've got to start doing some damage here. So let's get it back to life. Saving those Eviscerates for the face.
This was a very nice way of doing it. Nice symmetrical hand there by Freddie B. And this has always been the problem with Miracle Rogue. It can just beat itself if it doesn't draw one of the gadgets and auctioneers. Edwin Van Cleef was dealt with too early, and Disnamon just has plenty of time still. Volcanic Potion plus Pink Sherazin is such a clean way of getting rid of this board.
Alexstrasza face.
I could do that.
Then Fireball face Ice Block, and then Pyroblast face.
That's okay. That's a guaranteed lethal setup.
So if your opponent has no healing, that is a guaranteed lethal.
Do rogues ever have healing?
They can have Eater of Secrets.
Okay, and that maybe is worth playing around, but nope. Disnamon just going to go for it. Set up the 3-turn solved lethal. One of the only things that would have put me off making this play is if Freddie B had the potential of an ice block in his hand, but he doesn't actually have any cards generated from the mage deck left.
Right.
So that's not actually a threat for Disdemon and Team France at the moment.
So they are going for that 2-turn setup. And plus they're in a position where they can probably eat the damage. The Alex Straza needs to die, or it's a 1-turn setup. So some of this damage that Denmark has in hand is actually going to have to get pumped into this Alex Straza anyway.
Right.
Often overlooked when people do Alex Straza maths and scenarios is just the fact that it is an 8/8 minion.
Yeah.
You're just so used to the fact that it doesn't survive.
Freddie B going to just start throwing this damage at Disdemon's face.
Yeah, there's a chance that this isn't an ice block. I don't know what spell it... if they thought that it could be possibly something else, maybe?
If it's a barrier, would this still be lethal? I don't
think they know it's not as well.
But yeah. Oh, well, it's been there for the entire game. I think it can only be ice block at this point.
So they do know, so they're not even going to bother trying to proc. They're just doing as much damage as possible while the Blood Mage was there before getting their extra cards. That makes sense. Wondering if there was a way they could have ordered that so the Sherazin came back to life. But then they wouldn't have got... yeah.
Medivh the Guardian picked up from Disdemon. This game looks super over. It doesn't even matter. I don't even know why I'm pointing out Medivh the Guardian. You said yourself before, like, he can just Pyroblast this turn now. He doesn't even need to play another ice block because he's still got an ice block up now.
Yeah, Sherazin should have been traded in early at that point in that turn, right?
It should have been, because then it would have been alive again now. You're right.
Yeah.
Well noticed. That's Team Denmark making decisions at the last moment, making them in the wrong order, and unfortunately, well, not really being punished for it because they would have lost this game anyway.
Doing it in this order because they can't die this turn with the ice blocks still up.
But now they're going to just draw the rest of their deck out.
If anything weird happens here for France, they are able to play the block and the fireball on the same turn.
Yep.
Here's how something weird could happen.
No ice block.
Not weird enough.
But I'm pretty certain Freddie B is going to just draw his entire deck now.
Trying to work out if there's anything else he might have going for him here.
Just backstabbing the Sherazin.
Can he get into an Eater of Secrets?
Oh, that's true. That's true. No, he can't even play it now. Won't have the mana. We'll just watch. Oh, if he can get a counterfeit coin into Eater of Secrets, go.
Yep.
Oh!
Eater of Secrets off the top.
No. Swashbuckler, though. Okay.
Swashbuckler into...
No.
Not that.
It's just not happening. Sorry, Freddie B, but the card does not exist in your deck that you're looking for right now. Disdemon, Team France going to take the series with a heartbreaking reverse sweep for Denmark. Neither team goes through, but France get the high ground here, ending with a 2-3 win record. Both of these teams end with a 2-3 win record now in the Hearthstone Global Games. Well fought on both sides. Disdemon going to take the victory now while he can.
Yeah, alas, poor Freddie. I knew him, Horatio. Anyway, they're now out of this tournament. And France are out as well, but they've gone out on a high note. Denmark going out on a low note. There are, of course, some major tournaments coming up later in the week for all of those players to maybe redeem themselves.
Mildly salty.
Mildly salty, Crane, is probably a thing that's happening right about now.
Let's take one more look at the reverse sweep that we just witnessed. Best Marmot and Disdemon coming back for Team France, picking up the pieces and winning the series.
Yeah, nothing more to add to that. Keeping themselves together, and when Denmark didn't get it done on the game 3, they seemed to still give it their all in game 4, but something about Freddie's body language in that last game was a little bit... It's such a hard matchup anyway, and a match that was not meaning as much to him as possibly at the start of the day. So.
Yeah, we were saying from the start, from the start of that game, it's not a good one for the Rogue at all.
Really
not unless they can do some crazy stuff with the deck stealing or the class stealing.
Questy Adventure was stuck at the bottom. We only saw one. The other one, if there is 2 in there, is still in the bottom 4 cards to this day. So
let's take another look at the games that we just experienced, the games that kicked Denmark out of the tournament. First game of the day, Freddie B able to take it away with the Pirate Warrior. Just turn 5 or turn 6 for the Warrior. And look at this, devastatingly strong start for the Pirate Warrior.
Yeah, and this was a good turnaround of a game here. Looked like they were in trouble early on, but they did manage to sequence that flame strike, Alexstrasza, and in the end, not even healing themselves with it, going through with a bit of style on this particular game, taking that 2-0. This was the match that depended on if they could win this to get through, then they'd had to waited for later to see how Canada got on, but Induin could not get it done, had it to do right from the start.
Next up, Best Mom takes the first win of the series for Team France, just able to sustain with this Paladin deck so well, and Induin not drawing his doppelgangsters, just using up all of his tools.
Yeah, Dizima's first showing here, just evolving this board into plenty good enough stuff. Denmark did manage to tidy up that board temporarily, but was not enough. Bloodlust coming through for a huge win here. Getting it back to 2 games all to take it to the ace match.
Bloodlust, just such a powerful card. When it does this, it's so hard to play around. The fact that you have to remove almost everything from the board, or you're just going to get the surprise loss. Finally, France getting this win with the freeze mage, sorry, the discover mage, as expected. And we were very confused through a lot of that game, what it was, but it was discover mage, and it was still a very strong win. Let's take one look at Group F. I won't say final look, as we're about to look at them again before the next game, but there you go. Denmark have fallen down to 4th place, and Canada aren't even able to join them down there. Canada are now 100% through, regardless of the outcome of the next game, and Denmark are out.
But let's see where they finish. If Canada can beat Kazakhstan, they can win the group. And winning the group will mean they will dodge teams such as the USA and Ukraine. That is something they might well want to do.
And you know, Kazakhstan are going to want to win this as well. They're the only team in the Hearthstone Global Games that have yet to pick up a win. They don't want to end the tournament as the only team unable to pick up a win. So I'd say the stakes are pretty high for them too.
They are indeed.
We're going to be right back in just a moment for that game, so don't go anywhere. We'll see you soon.
We're almost there. Quiet down, everyone. This is not like any of our previous expeditions. This will be far more ambitious. We're stepping into a land of primordial wonder. Infused with astonishing elemental energies. The plant life here holds very unusual properties. So don't touch anything. And while you may be excited to see the local fauna, you might want to make sure they don't see you. Because their powers of adaptation are devastating. Make no mistake, we will be tested at every turn. But if we stay on our guard, we might just survive. Now then, are you ready? Then let's journey into Ongoro Crater.